I am not causing a disturbance. I am simply recording this interaction because I feel unsafe right now.
Pay attention to the woman in the navy blazer and rolling carry-on. Her name is Keisha Laurent. She's 29 years old, a software engineer for a Fortune 500 company, and she's rushing through Philadelphia International Airport to catch her connecting flight to Seattle. She has exactly 38 minutes before boarding closes. Her presentation to company executives is scheduled for 9 a.m. the following morning. She's been preparing for 3 months. Now pay attention to the TSA supervisor approaching her at gate B17. His name is Dmitry Volkov. He's been with the agency for 6 years. Within the next 12 minutes, he will make a decision that will cost him his career, cost the federal government $2.3 million, and expose a pattern of discrimination that had been operating in plain sight for years. At 6:47 p.m. on October 12th, Keisha passed through the security checkpoint without incident. Her laptop, shoes, and belt went through the scanner. Everything cleared. She repacked her bag, checked her boarding pass, and headed toward her gate. She never made it to that flight. Keisha Laurent wasn't supposed to be in Philadelphia. Her direct flight from Atlanta to Seattle had been canceled due to mechanical issues. The airline rerouted her through Philadelphia with a tight connection. She'd already lost 2 hours. Her checked luggage was somewhere in the system. All she had was her carry-on, laptop, charger, toiletries, 1 change of clothes, and the flash drive containing her presentation. The presentation was everything. 3 months of data analysis, market projections, user interface mockups. Her team had worked nights and weekends. If she missed this meeting, the product launch would be delayed, possibly canceled. She was not going to miss this meeting. At 6:49 p.m., Keisha reached gate B17 and took a seat near the window. Boarding would begin in 20 minutes. She pulled out her laptop to review her slides one final time. She was focused, rehearsing her talking points silently. She didn't notice Dmitry Volkov watching her from across the gate area. Volkov had been observing Keisha since she cleared security. He would later claim he noticed suspicious behavior. He would not be able to articulate what that behavior was. At 6:52 p.m., Volkov approached Keisha's seat. He informed her that she had been randomly selected for additional screening. This was not random. Keisha was the only passenger at the gate asked to undergo secondary inspection. She checked her watch. Boarding would begin in 17 minutes. She asked how long the screening would take. Volkov told her it would be brief. She gathered her belongings and followed him to a screening area near the gate. It would not be brief. The secondary screening area was separated from the main terminal by temporary partitions. 2 additional TSA officers were present, Officer Marcus Chen and Officer Patricia Mills. Volkov instructed Keisha to place her bag on the inspection table. He began removing items one by one: laptop, charger, toiletry bag, clothing, flash drive, notebook, pens. Keisha asked what they were looking for. Volkov did not answer. He examined each item carefully, running additional swabs for explosive residue. Everything came back negative. He inspected the lining of her bag, checking for hidden compartments. There were none. He powered on her laptop and scrolled through her files without asking permission. At 7:03 p.m., Keisha checked the departure board visible through the partition. Her flight had begun boarding. She told the officers she needed to leave. Volkov told her the screening was not complete. She asked to speak to a supervisor. Volkov informed her that he was the supervisor. What happened next would become the centerpiece of federal litigation. Volkov instructed Keisha to step into a private screening room for a pat-down. She asked if a female officer could perform the search. Mills stepped forward. The pat-down was extensive, lasting nearly 8 minutes. Mills checked Keisha's waistband, pockets, collar, and shoes. She found nothing. When Keisha emerged from the screening room at 7:14 p.m., her flight was in final boarding. The gate was a 2-minute walk away. She began repacking her belongings. Volkov stopped her. He wanted to inspect her flash drive more thoroughly. Keisha explained that the flash drive contained proprietary company data and that she was legally prohibited from allowing unauthorized access. Volkov informed her that refusal to comply would result in her being denied boarding. She asked to see the written policy. He did not produce one. At 7:16 p.m., Keisha made a decision. She took out her phone and began recording. Volkov immediately ordered her to stop. She asked under what authority. He told her that recording TSA procedures was prohibited. This was false. Federal guidelines permit passengers to record screening procedures as long as they don't interfere with the process or capture monitor displays showing other passengers' personal information. Keisha continued recording. She stated her name, the date, the time, and the fact that she was being detained without explanation. Volkov reached for her phone. Chen stepped between them. The situation was escalating. At 7:19 p.m., Volkov made a call on his radio. Within 3 minutes, 2 Philadelphia airport police officers arrived, Officer James Rutherford and Officer Sandra Ochoa. Volkov informed them that Keisha was being uncooperative and refusing to comply with security procedures. This was not accurate. Keisha had complied with every screening request. What she had refused was the warrantless search of her company's proprietary data. Rutherford asked Keisha to put away her phone. She asked if she was being detained or if she was free to leave. Rutherford did not answer directly. He suggested she cooperate to avoid further complications. At 7:21 p.m., Keisha's flight departed Gate B-17. She was still in the screening area. Her name had been called 3 times over the airport intercom. The gate agent had tried to reach her by phone. The call went unanswered because her phone was in her hand, recording. She had missed her flight. The next available flight to Seattle wasn't until 10:35 p.m. She would miss her morning presentation. 3 months of work, gone. At 7:24 p.m., Volkov informed Keisha that she was free to go. No explanation was provided. No apology was offered. Chen helped her repack her belongings. Several items were damaged. Her toiletry bag had leaked, and her notebook was torn. She gathered everything silently and walked back into the terminal. Her hands were shaking. She sat down at the gate and called her manager. She explained what had happened. Her manager told her not to worry about the presentation. He told her to document everything. Keisha spent the next hour writing down every detail she could remember. Times, names, badge numbers, statements made, witnesses present. She noted that every other passenger at Gate B-17 had been white or Asian. She noted that she was the only black woman in the boarding area. She noted that Volkov had offered no justification for the additional screening beyond random selection. She also noted something else. During the inspection, Mills had made a comment to Chen. Keisha had heard it clearly. Another one. Another one. Keisha wondered how many times this had happened before. At 8:30 p.m., Keisha boarded her rescheduled flight. She arrived in Seattle at 1:47 a.m. local time. Her luggage did not. She went to her hotel, slept for 4 hours, and delivered her presentation in the same clothes she'd been wearing for 26 hours. Her team's product launch was delayed by 6 weeks. On October 15th, 3 days after the incident, Keisha filed a formal complaint with the TSA. She submitted her written account, her video recording, and the names of all personnel involved. The TSA acknowledged receipt of her complaint. She received no further communication. On October 30th, she filed a complaint with the Department of Homeland Security Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. Again, she received an acknowledgement. Again, no follow-up. On November 18th, Keisha hired an attorney. His name was David Chen, no relation to Officer Chen, and he specialized in civil rights litigation. He reviewed her case and told her something she had suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. She almost certainly wasn't the first. Chen filed a Freedom of Information Act request for TSA records related to secondary screenings at Philadelphia International Airport for the previous 2 years, with specific focus on demographic data and the personnel involved. What came back was damning. The FOIA response arrived in January. It contained heavily redacted documents, but the patterns were undeniable. Over a 24-month period, Dmitry Volkov had flagged 247 passengers for additional screening. Of those, 189 were Black or Latino. Volkov worked primarily in Terminal B. Terminal B served approximately 40% Black and Latino passengers. His selection rate suggested deliberate targeting. More troubling, 78 of those passengers had missed their flights as a result of the extended screenings. Not a single screening had resulted in the discovery of prohibited items or led to an arrest. Chen cross-referenced the data with complaint records. 14 formal complaints had been filed against Volkov in 2 years. All had been dismissed as unfounded or unsubstantiated after internal review. On February 3rd, Chen filed a federal lawsuit on Keisha's behalf. The defendants were Dmitry Volkov, the Transportation Security Administration, and the Department of Homeland Security. The claims included violation of Fourth Amendment rights, racial profiling, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent supervision. The lawsuit sought $2.5 million in damages and demanded policy reforms to prevent future discrimination. The TSA's initial response was to deny all allegations and claim qualified immunity for Volkov. That strategy would not survive discovery. In April, depositions began. Volkov's testimony was evasive and contradictory. He could not explain why Keisha had been selected for additional screening. He claimed it was random. When presented with statistical evidence showing his selection patterns, he claimed he didn't pay attention to demographics. When shown videos of his interactions with passengers, he claimed he was following protocol. When asked to cite the specific protocol, he could not. Chen's cross-examination was methodical. He walked Volkov through each step of the screening process. He asked Volkov to identify what about Keisha's behavior had been suspicious. Volkov mentioned that she seemed nervous. Chen pointed out that she was rushing to catch a flight. Nervousness was normal. Volkov then claimed she avoided eye contact. Chen produced airport surveillance footage showing Keisha making direct eye contact with Volkov when he first approached her. The testimony lasted 7 hours. By the end, Volkov's justifications had collapsed. Mills and Chen, the other TSA officers, testified next. Both confirmed that Volkov frequently flagged passengers for additional screening based on what he called instinct. Neither could recall him ever articulating specific behavioral indicators. Mills admitted that she had made the "another one" comment. She claimed it referred to passengers who seemed in a hurry, not to any demographic characteristic. The explanation was unconvincing. In May, the TSA's attorneys requested a settlement conference. They proposed $150,000 and no admission of wrongdoing. Chen rejected the offer. Keisha wanted more than money. She wanted accountability. The case went to trial in September, nearly 1 year after the incident at Gate B-17. The trial lasted 8 days. The jury heard testimony from Keisha, from TSA officers, from expert witnesses on racial profiling, and from other passengers who had been subjected to similar treatment by Volkov. The evidence was overwhelming. The defense's strategy was to argue that Volkov had acted within his discretion and that any disparate impact was unintentional. The prosecution countered that intentional discrimination doesn't require explicitly racist statements. It can be proven through patterns of behavior and statistical evidence. The jury agreed. On September 28th, after 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict in Keisha's favor. They awarded her $1.8 million in compensatory damages and $500,000 in punitive damages. The total, $2.3 million. The jury also issued findings that Volkov had engaged in racial profiling, that the TSA had failed to adequately supervise him, and that the agency's complaint review process was insufficient to protect passengers' civil rights. The verdict sent shockwaves through the TSA. Within 2 weeks, Dmitry Volkov was terminated. Patricia Mills received a formal reprimand and was reassigned to baggage screening. Marcus Chen, who had attempted to de-escalate the confrontation, received no disciplinary action. In November, the TSA announced a series of policy reforms for Philadelphia International Airport and eventually for all major airports nationwide. The changes included mandatory implicit bias training for all screening personnel, random audits of secondary screening selections to identify statistical anomalies, a revised complaint process with independent review, clear written protocols for what constitutes suspicious behavior, explicit protections for passengers' rights to record interactions with TSA personnel. Keisha Laurent did not celebrate the verdict. She told reporters that the money didn't erase what had happened. She had lost more than a flight. She had lost her sense of security in spaces she was supposed to trust. But she also said this: the lawsuit wasn't just about her. It was about the 189 other passengers in those FOIA records. It was about every black traveler who'd been pulled aside for random screening. It was about making sure another one never happened again. Keisha still works as a software engineer. She still travels frequently for work. She has TSA PreCheck now, though she knows it doesn't guarantee anything. She carries 2 portable phone chargers, so her recording app never dies. She documents everything. Her flash drive, the one Volkov wanted to search, sits in a frame on her desk at home. It's a reminder, not of what was taken from her that night at Gate B-17, but of what she fought to take back. Justice is never just about one person. It's about the precedent set. The doors opened. The policies changed. Keisha Laurent walked through an airport checkpoint and ended up in federal court. She didn't choose that fight, but she won it. The TSA paid $2.3 million. Dmitry Volkov lost his career. And somewhere in Philadelphia International Airport, Gate B-17 is still operating. Passengers still rush to catch flights. Security still conducts screenings. But now, there are cameras watching the watchers. There are policies with teeth. There are passengers who know their rights. Keisha Laurent made sure of that.